Hey guys, Jane here, and I am reviewing My Brother, My King by C.L. Mozena. Probably butchered that, I'm so sorry. This is a short book, a short story. It is technically three parts of a short story from what I'm understanding on the back. Um, it didn't necessarily feel like three complete parts. It was more like a beginning, middle, and end, but okay, I'll go with a three-part story. So this story is about a boy, a person, a boy, but I don't know like the age exactly, named Evan. And his mother has decided that his half brother will become king instead of Devon, even though Devon is the oldest and it's his birthright. So Devon's father convinces him that they need to kill his brother so that Devon can become king instead. Well, at the last minute, Devon decides he cannot kill his own brother, and so instead he kills his father. And he spends the rest of the book basically tormented by the fact that he killed his father, and then lied about it because he made it out that his dad was a hero who died saving him and his brother. And then, yeah, that's kind of the book. He spends the rest of it feeling bad about killing his dad. Okay, so this book was a 2 out of 5 for me. Now, I'm going to say a couple things that are important here before you take my judgment for this book. Number one, short stories are pretty hit or miss for me. It is possible that this is a brilliant short story and it just wasn't for me, because short stories, I enjoy some of them, but a lot of them, it's not a genre I read highly in. Number two, if this book is some kind of retelling or a short story set in a bigger world, then it would be closer to like a 3 out of 5. I couldn't find any indication on Goodreads that this is a part of a larger work or that it's a retelling. But if it was one of those things, it would probably be a 3 out of 5. It wasn't a terrible story. I had a good time going through it. I just was so confused. I felt like there wasn't enough detail or enough storytelling to really understand what was happening around me. For instance, like, I know that Devon's mom and dad are divorced, but I don't really understand why at this point in time somebody has to be declared the next king. Like, there wasn't really an inciting incident that made that happen. Just suddenly you're with Devon and he's like, yeah, my brother's going to be the next king. And I'm like, okay. And his mom doesn't really act like a queen, and she's not, I don't know, like, I don't understand the world. There's a little bit of a medieval feel to it because they're jousting at one point in their suits of armor, but it wasn't really like clearly spelled out. And just like when I say the boys' ages, Devon seems like a late teen, early 20 character, and so does his brother Mark, but it's never really spelled out, and sometimes they seem a little younger. It was really hard to understand a lot of the stuff in the story. Another thing is Devon keeps snakes, and that's how he's supposed to murder his brother, with one of his snakes. There's really no indication of why he has all these poisonous, scary snakes, just that he does. And he also has this two-headed, non-poisonous snake that is golden that he calls his Golden Girls, and we get like no real explanation about that. I thought she'd play a role because it's a cool two-headed golden snake, and she really doesn't do anything in the story, but like, she's introduced early and they talk about her a lot, and she doesn't do anything. And the ending of this book really was confusing to me, and I was just kind of like, I kept hoping to get there. I kept being like, okay, this book is really confusing, but we're going to get to the end and it's going to make sense. And it didn't to me. I kind of was like, I don't get it. I don't get what the point of this whole story was. I don't really understand what the author was trying to do. There wasn't enough details for me to feel like I really understood the story. Like, I got the main plot. Like, the main plot is simple. Devin's supposed to kill his brother. He doesn't. Then he feels bad about killing his father, even though he had to kill his father because otherwise his father would have made him kill his brother. The other thing, too, is, like, there's a weird assassination attempt on his brother later in the story, and we don't really get a lot of detail about that. Like, we get the assassination attempt, but we have no idea who it is or why, or, is it just, all this stuff happens, and there's no real rhyme or reason that I could find to most of it. So I was enjoying the general plot. I love that idea and that premise of, he has to choose between his dad and his brother, but he ultimately chooses his dad, but then he feels guilt, or to kill his dad, and then he feels guilty about it, and he is going crazy, because he's done this thing, and the guilt and stuff. And I really liked that, but everything else didn't work for me. So that's why I thought maybe it was a retelling of some kind that I just didn't have all the puzzle pieces for, or a story in a bigger world that if I read that story, all this stuff would make sense. But as far as I know, that's not the case. As far as I know, this is a standalone short story, and it wasn't enough for me. I didn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me. I was just not impressed with it. Again, it wasn't terrible. It felt like there wasn't a good point to it, and yeah, I was so lost. Another thing I will add, trigger warning. Devin's dad is extremely abusive, from the get-go. And that's another thing I didn't totally understand in the book. Devin keeps his dad around as a, quote, bodyguard after his mom and dad divorced, and his dad was kind of a jerk to his mom, who's presumably the queen, so I'm not really sure why she lets him be around. But then his dad is constantly abusing Devin. And the queen doesn't seem to mind, doesn't seem to step up and be like, hey, that's the prince, you're nothing, you used to be the queen's consort, and you're not even that now, don't lay a hand on my kid. She's just like, oh, okay, beat the crap out of him, I don't care. So trigger warnings for abuse. And like I said, a lot of this book it was mind-bogglingly confusing. So I cannot recommend this. In fairness, it doesn't seem like a lot of people have read it, so you've probably never heard of it, and it's probably not on your to-read list. But yeah, I was very disappointed. It had potential, and had it have been explained better or drawn out better, or a short story in a bigger world, it would have been a fun read. It wasn't terrible. There wasn't enough context, and I didn't understand a lot of it other than the basic premise, and I felt really let down by the story. So, all right, social media is below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.